Welcome to Greek for a Week. We are continuing our study in the book of 1 Thessalonians, Paul's Thanksgiving section. This is his second Thanksgiving section. It's found in chapter 2, verses 13 through 16. We're just going to look at the one verse this week, chapter 2, verse 14. And you'll notice the gar that's here, which is a further explanation of verse 13. And you'll notice here that I placed a comma because I want you to be aware that by the Jews, this phrase here will continue and be further identified as well as explained in verse 15 as well as verse 16. So I can't do those two verses. It'd just be too long of a video. So we'll look at 15 and 16 next week, but I wanted to make sure that I made that clear this week before I forgot there towards the end of the video. So Paul again says, "For you yourselves, brethren, became imitators." Imitators, you could say, of what? Of the churches of God in Christ Jesus, who are in Judea, because you yourselves also endured the same sufferings. You endured the same sufferings by your own countrymen, just as also they themselves by the Jews. So once again, we made note of the gar here at the beginning, which is, again, providing a further explanation for the reason for Paul to give thanks. You also have here the nethete. So this is our second person plural, aorist passive, the thete ending here, the aorist passive indicative of genomai. It's where he is mentioning that the brethren became imitators. And then the uson. Here's your uson. This is your participle. You also have an article that precedes it. That is a present active participle, genitive, masculine plural of the form of ami. Again, because of the article, it's likely an attributive participle. That is, it's attributing a quality to the churches there who are in Judea. So it's describing them. I think both en clauses, you have en te Judea and then en Christo Jesu. I think both of those are basically represent location. You could say the churches are in Christ Jesus, so that's kind of a relational, but nonetheless, it's a metaphorical use of the locative dative. And then, of course, this is in Judea. This provides for us a specific location, so that obviously would be a dative of location. And then you have a hati here, which would represent cause. In other words, basically you have here, you became imitators, and you could say why, and it's because you endured sufferings here. Notice the ta alta here. I translated that the same. You endured the same sufferings. Remember the alta in the nominative here could be altas, with also the article present that precedes a form, nominative preferably, use of altas. When that happens, you translate it as the same. So that's why I did that there. And then you have lastly the epathete. So here's my final verb that I'm going to mention, second person plural. Of course, it's aorist because you have the epsilon, the augment out front. Aorist active indicative of pasco, which would be the word for suffering. Then, of course, you have two hupa clauses, by your own countrymen, and then by the Jews here, which would just be prepositional phrases, indicating that you could say by what agency the sufferings took place. So again, this is chapter 2, verse 14, and we'll look at verses 15 and 16 next week so that you can make the connection. Trust you have a great week.